Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lamp.
Well, Countrywide Connect is great partners of rural leaders, and rural leaders bring us every year a crop of wonderful Nuffield scholars that we talk to here on the show. Joining us is Lisa Portas. Lisa, thanks so much for your time coming on the show. I'm really looking forward to asking you a little bit more about your Nuffield report because, of course, it's connected to somewhere that's deep in my heart, which is improving the value of our wool, and particularly our strong wool sector. For those who are not familiar with your background, Lisa, what brought you to the interest of this particular topic?
Yeah, good question. I think anyone who knew me 20 years ago remembered me in the middle of Wellington, out on Lambton Quay, kind of working in the retail sector. Some interesting comparisons there. But as some of our farming friends know, farmers aren't so good at moving to the city. So found myself happily out on the South Wairarapa, out on Palliser Ridge with my husband Kurt. We were the exec team there we lived there for 17 years and then happily had a role there looking after the strong wool clip, amongst other things. So that's definitely become a new passion of mine over the last decade or so, and then naturally led to the question of how we can get some more margin back behind the farm gate, when I was pretty fortunate to receive the Nuffield Scholarship last year.
So that's a really interesting background, and no wonder you were frustrated seeing a high quality product like wool with such a low value at the farm gate. What did you learn pre-Nuffield that kind of helped support your Nuffield journey? So like in terms of what you kind of pre-knew about the structure of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that dawned on me in my comparisons between the sector I'd worked in previously and then spending some time amongst the farm gate is we can be incredibly close to our customers, as kind of producers of product, which I found really exciting. I think as well we've got a really great story of origin. When a lot of my work was in kind of fashion and cosmetics, and some of those stories aren't always the best at the beginning. So, what could be better than these stories of out on the land, caring for animals, caring for the land, caring for, our communities around us. So I think there was a huge opportunity there to take these products out to the world, and it kind of started to see a bit of a demand for that, looking offshore and seeing, the conversation around synthetics and natural fibres, and just felt like we were in a great position to start to shift that dial on the price.
So Nuffield's a very exciting scholarship. When you set out, what were you hoping to achieve versus what you ended up achieving?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I set out, one of the things that probably didn't change was just going out and opening my own eyes and having a bit more experience and understanding of what global agriculture looks like. And boy, did I achieve that and then some, I think. So that was interesting. But I think what I probably didn't bargain on as much was just how many other parts of primary industries across the world would give us some examples of potentially some levers we could pull here in fibre. A lot of that's already happening, but I just probably underestimated the synergies there and some of the lessons that could be learnt. So, yeah.
And so with regards to creating more value from wool, what did you learn from other industries around the world and how they've structured their supply chains to capture and demonstrate value to the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. That demonstrate value piece is a really important part of it. I think we've got a lot of data, we've got a lot of certification, and I won't touch on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I do think it has its place. And those things kind of put together with the product that we're already producing that's reliable, repeatable, scalable, and something that people can count on. I think that was something that came out in a big way, that we have a lot of the things that a design supply chain really is asking for. Probably a big part for me was looking in Europe in particular, a lot of talk around Scope 3 and where people are procuring their goods from. And I think for those of us here in New Zealand, we go, well, what could be better than produce, these grass-fed animals out rotationally grazing, improvement, happening all over the place versus synthetic products. But there's a real challenge there with how those two things are matched up in the eyes of procurement officers in some of our bigger brands. So there's a lot of work there to be done. But yeah, I think just seeing those supply chains where everyone's talking, it was not uncommon to see, particularly in food, farmers, producers, the supply chain and the end customer, the brands sitting down and going, okay, what do these margins look like? And is everyone able to meet the goals that we're putting in place here? So I guess, some of those could be quite extreme examples, but I guess that essence of the buyer really caring about, can we do good where we are, and can the prices that we're receiving allow us to do that? That to me was a real, aha kind of moment, I guess.
On the environmental side, it's interesting. Do you believe that we don't have good, clear communication on the wool side because of the fragmentation in how we sell our wool of the demands of environmental credence attributes, that they are actually wanted? How do we do that? How do we communicate back with our growers, our strong wool growers, which are very different, in the current structure we have here in New Zealand?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we've got a couple of different ways that wool seems to be leaving the farm gate here in New Zealand. We've got your quite classic, out on the truck through third parties that are acting really strongly on our behalf and working hard there to lift the price, and heading out into auction. And I guess when that happens, there's a level of traceability that can still be achieved, which is fantastic. But possibly it's a little bit harder to keep hold of some of those environmental sides, the traceability that's required for some of that stuff. Perhaps not as simple as if it was a closer transaction. So I guess we're seeing a lot of in the news, you've heard of, Chanel are buying up farms and a number of really high profile brands coming and looking to talk a lot closer to where they're getting their wool from. So I think the message, one of the messages that I would have is just for producers to be really open to getting closer to where that wool's going in a supply and demand, wouldn't say issue. I'm not sure it's all bad, but it's definitely assisted us with the price at the moment. But when that's the case, then our buyers will do one of two things. That they may look for another product to use as an ingredient, or they will double down on where they are getting it from and want way more certainty about it. So contracts are coming. I think everyone's excited about getting closer to brands, and then some certainty, right? 2 or 3 year contracts. Looking at your books on farm, what's the price? What's the benefit of having 3 years worth of income already sitting there and be confident about it? So I think that's something that we can do a little bit more of, and I guess the farmers can assist anyone who's, I'm not saying every farm should go out and do their own thing and become a brand, but definitely be aware of the data that's on your farm, be aware of the compliance that you're already producing and the environmental good work you're doing, and make sure that's ready for the people who are out selling your product.
Very good advice. It'd be interesting to see farmer behaviour who, in the area of strong wool, who haven't been familiar with contracting, but the certainty it brings for farm income, as opposed to watching the volatility of the strong wool. And it did come down. It wasn't going to rise forever. It's definitely a really great way. For those can get a copy of your Nuffield report, we'll put a link in the description of this podcast and YouTube if you're watching on demand. Otherwise, head to ruralleaders.co.nz, type in Lisa Portas, and you can find that. If you're a sheep and beef farmer, you'll get a copy of Sheep Country coming out at the end of September from us, and Lisa's article will be in there with some more detail as well. Lisa, thank you so very much for joining us here on Countrywide Connect and bringing back all your pearls of wisdom. What's in store for you next?
Oh, well, I've just not long got back from the IWTO conference in China, which was pretty exciting. So there's a little bit of homework after that, and hopefully some more involvement. Part of my role with AGMARDT as an associate trustee is supporting some of my new ventures and getting out kind of upskilling. So happily was able to tag along with that. So looking forward to doing a bit more, and also a bit of contract work, helping people get that wool off farm. So keep me busy.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a lot that is keeping you busy. Thank you so very much for your time. Lisa Portas there, 2025 Scholar of Nuffield. It's very much worth doing, and the applications are currently open for the 2027 cohort. If you've always been thinking about doing a Nuffield, and I must say, deep down it's on my bucket list, but timing's got to be right. Definitely head along to ruralleaders.co.nz and put your hat in the ring, because it's a life-changing thing to be able to explore.
Countrywide Connect with Andy Thompson and Sarah Perriam-Lapp.